I don't know if this is loading or not. This is like a new form of a live video. I don't know if I'm live. Am I live? Hello. Well, this is like a new format for live videos on Facebook. I'm not used to this. So good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Right now, I was supposed to be teaching a virtual class of heavy reps and sets, so I had my weights ready, and I was really stoked to have my little lesson plan ready. But it's a beautiful early evening, and no one came. I don't know who's watching. I can see that one person is watching, so thank you, whoever you are, for watching. Feel free to comment. I decided to make this because I was in like teaching mode. I was like really amped to teach. I decided to make this like a shareable time. Um, so I've been thinking about lately my journey in the world of like fitness and exercise and like quick story about me. Growing up, I was not athletic. I loved gym class as a little girl. Like I always loved moving, but I really, really, really despised being forced to like perform and play sports. I felt like Daria in like, volleyball. My brother was the athletic one. My brother played lots of sports and was always very talented. And I was picked last a lot for kickball. So I really, really didn't like gym class. And I didn't really love the thought of like exercise or weightlifting or weight training. And this is a good reminder that we're never done learning. And, in my 20s, I really got into fitness and exercise, and maybe I got into it for the wrong reasons. I got into it for maybe the reasons that most people do, like vanity and wanting to look good and fit in your clothes. But I really, really enjoyed learning about how to efficiently move my body. And, as I learned more, as I became a fitness instructor in many different disciplines, I really saw how movement for me is medicine, and movement can make us feel young and feel great. Even doing small little things, we don't have to become Olympic power lifters to look good, but also to feel great and to age gracefully and to move and carry ourselves with grace as we get older. So I'm trying to think back to like that beginner's mindset of like, what did I feel when I was first like walking into a gym or first working with a trainer? Like I felt pretty intimidated, and I still sometimes do going into new environments. But a lot of times there's this focus on like being super, super badass and, like going intensely and killing yourself. And I know I talk about this with a lot of trainers, like we cringe at form, and especially if people are being like resistant to learning about like analyzing their bodies while they're doing the movements. And especially in lifting, people want to just pick up that huge like 45-pound bar and add plates and start looking impressive before they actually learn the foundations. And so I wanted to talk. My mom is commenting. She's watching from downstairs. Hi, Mom. So I wanted to talk about what's a basic squat, and when you go into different environments, why do they do them differently, and like what are the differences, and where do I begin? So I set up here, if you'll be able to see in the background, there's a chair. So I wanted to talk about like a basic squat that's healthy and it's achievable for basically everybody, and what you should be doing with your feet, where your butt should be, what your upper body should be doing. So let's start over here. So a basic squat, we do not want to be tucking the pelvis under, right? Like, so I know in yoga and I know in bar and ballet, we're doing different things. Hey, Kira, doing different things, and we're trying to achieve different things, and there's a different focus, right? So for most people, that's not going to apply. For most people, we want to do a basic squat. Like I lived in China for many years, and when I was first there, I was a little bit like taken aback. Most people don't like sit down on the ground. If they sit, they're sitting like, hold on, I gotta get back up. They're sitting like this. And like they can sit there and eat their food, eat their rice like comfortably for like many hours. Now, I don't know about you, I didn't grow up being in this position, maybe doing like little frog jumps as a kid, but this is quite painful because my hip flexors were tight. I wasn't able to achieve that position without like totally being forward and getting my spine like straight up and down. This is actually called like a yogi squat or malasana. This is a shout out to MZK because it's his favorite yoga pose. Getting your spine a little straighter, but you're actually like tucking your pelvis under here. So this is a little bit difficult for a lot of us to achieve. But basically getting the butt back is going to help strengthen the backs of our legs, our glutes, the sides of our glutes, and the fronts of our legs, the thighs and the quads. So where can we start? And where do we start with feet? So if you're in the parallel position, that's okay, but it can be a little tricky for us to get our body in the right position this way. So what we can do is turn out our toes slightly, especially if you have longer legs, especially if you're a little taller. It's a little bit more comfortable. Now, for a lot of women, myself included, this is my least favorite squat because it's more quad dominant. It's more front of the thighs dominant. And I like those nice wide sumo squats. They're a little bit more comfortable, a little easier for me to achieve. They're a little bit more uncomfortable for other people. So you have a preference, but we shouldn't just do what's comfortable for us or what's easier for us. We should work on the things that challenge us as well. So here we want to make sure our feet are just outside of our hips. They're slightly turned out. Our knees are not going to go forward. Your knees are going to stay kind of in the middle of your foot, and your butt is going to go back. So I recommend if you're just starting, if you're new, or if you need a little check-in with yourself and you feel like your knees always hurt when you do squats, you're going to try this. You're going to sit your butt back towards the chair. Now, if you fall, if you lose your balance, you go a little too low, all you do is sit down. That's totally fine, right? You're sitting, you're not falling, it's okay. Just use a sturdy enough chair. And then from here, you want to squeeze your glutes. You want to squeeze right under the butt, push up from the heels to stand, right? Another thing I'm going to call your attention to, if you've ever taken my body pump class or worked out with me, I'm usually screaming like, no pelvic thrust. Don't stand up with a pelvic thrust. I learned that when I first went to Trident, actually, from Coach Paul, who told me, you know, like you got to make sure it's a tension-based exercise. You got to focus on just lifting those knees up, those kneecaps up, not thrusting your pelvis forward like we're like in a party, right? Actually, well, hopefully you're not doing that at a lot of parties. You can get in trouble. So we just want to sit down, keep your chest lifted, your belly tight, drive up through the heels nice and slow. Just lift your kneecaps at the top. And I like to do that extra squeeze in my quads when I stand up. And then another thing I've learned from teaching body pump, to kind of adjust the stance a little bit more fluidly, a little bit more quickly, you can just do a little heel toe. So now we're in what they call a mid-stance squat, a little bit wider than hip distance apart. And what does this focus on? This actually hits here, these glute medius. So you might hear that a lot. That's the glute medius. It's the upper part of the glute. It's a smaller part of the glute here. It's not as big. Well, mine is not so big, but it's not the big meatier part. It's the smaller part that is important to strengthen as well. So it hits that a little bit more, and the focus goes more on the posterior chain as you go a little bit wider with the feet, a little less on the quads. So it's the same thing. You can sit down, make sure the butt goes back. Your pelvis is not tucked under, it's back. And you sit down and you drive up slowly. And as you get more secure, you can practice away from the chair. And you can see where your range of motion is. If your range of motion is here, that's fine. You press up. That's so much better than going low and putting your knees forward. And you heard that big crack. My knees are always cracking, and they crack immediately when they go into a position that I do not like. So you can go low. This is about 90 degrees. If you can get a little lower, that means you have good ankle mobility and good, nice looser hip flexors. And you stand up, right? And then you have that nice wide sumo squat too as well. And this one I'm going to call attention to. Another thing that happens is knee valgus. I love throwing in the anatomical term. That just means your knees are kind of rotating in. We don't want that to happen because that puts a lot of pressure here. I hear a lot of complaints from people. My knees are bad and I don't like squats for that reason. Here, it also might mean that your thighs and your glutes are a little weaker, your core is a little weaker, so you want to strengthen them to take away the pain. What I like to do as a quick little reminder to myself is I like rotate my thighs. I externally rotate my thighs. And that is a cue in my brain. Do not let your knees track in, like none of this, right? I'm not even seeing I should look at who's commenting. I'm really bad with doing this. Kathleen, you're also one of my favorite humans. Oh, Kiara, that's a great question. How many squats should you do every day to get to a flat tummy? I don't know. Do you want the truth? Well, first of all, squats are not going to be enough to make you shed fat, right? Squats are a great foundational movement. And if you build yourself up to using like heavier weights or doing a lot of squats where you're getting your heart rate pumping at the same time, that could help, trim that belly fat. But we can't spot reduce fat, unfortunately. And people ask me that a lot about how many crunches should I do every day to get a flat stomach. Look, you can have the strongest stomach and the most defined abdominals ever underneath lots of layers of fat. So Unfortunately, it's not a quick like answer, and it's not a quick like, oh, if you do 30 squats a day, you're gonna lose weight. It might help if you're starting from nothing, but we can't spot reduce fat. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. But you can strengthen your legs and you can feel better doing natural things. Like say you drop like, hold on, I'm gonna be dramatic here. Like, oops, I dropped something. Like instead of bending forward and picking it up this way, which can be really dangerous on the back, you learn that if I have a good squat, I'm gonna protect my knees, I'm gonna squat down here and pick it up, and I'm actually using that as an opportunity to strengthen my body at the same time. But thank you for asking that question. I love when people engage with me. Okay, so back to that nice wider squat. We want to make sure that the knees do not track in, they stay open, and our knees kind of track over the second or third toe when we're in this wider position. And you don't lean forward, you still squeeze the belly nice and tight and keep your chest lifted, right? It's that same motion. This might be a little harder for some people. You sit down to your range of motion. Your range of motion might be a little shallower or a little deeper, and you stand up and notice that I didn't do this as I stood up. Okay, and it's the same thing. If you feel uncomfortable, do it over the chair. Get it back, chest up, and stand up. Just lift your kneecaps at the top, extra little squeeze at the top. And so that's the foundation of those basic squats that, if you feel comfortable, as you get stronger, you can put a bar on your shoulders. You can do a front rack squat. You can hold a heavy weight in the front. This is called a goblet squat, holding a weight here, hold a kettlebell here. That also works. You can put weights, if you don't have a bar, put weights on your shoulders. But we should get the foundational movement down first before we add weight. Always, always, always. Okay? And then one thing I'll call your attention to, people who go to different types of fitness will say, well, how come I don't like tuck the pelvis under? I do that in some classes. Yeah, so hold on one second. I have this bowl here. It's my singing bowl. I'm not going to play it for you right now, but I'm a visual learner, and I used to hear yoga teachers for years saying, like, scoop the bowl, like turn the bowl. I'm like, what the heck does that mean? So if you're in like a regular squat, right, but your feet are together in a chair squat position, if you can see. So from the front, they're like this. My thighs are pulling together. If I'm in that regular squat, my butt's back. So what they mean is you tuck this under and sit down a little lower. You're strengthening the fronts of your thighs a lot more in that position, but you're not going to be able to go as low. It's the same in ballet or in bar classes, bar fitness. Some of the bar forms utilize the pelvic tuck, and some don't. But I like to mix it in a little bit too, because it has a different purpose. You're strengthening your inner thighs a little bit more, and you're kind of squeezing everything together. It's probably not attractive. I probably shouldn't just show you my butt, but like I'm squeezing everything super tight. It doesn't look like that bootylicious butt. It's like that nice tight, all the energy, all the force is going into the middle. And so then your knees are coming a little bit forward in that demi-plie, and you're pulling in, but you're going to squeeze your butt the whole time. So it's a different focus. And that's only in those types of classes. You're not going to really be doing that much in like everyday life. So I really recommend practicing the natural movement of the squat so that you sit your butt back when you're doing it, and then you can add weight and go into different variations, different progressions, like cardio ones. You're doing that jump squat, but you're landing in the squat too, so that you're saving pressure on the joints. You can always do staggered squats. Make things a little harder. You can have one foot elevated, and so then the focus is it's working on one leg a little bit more than the other leg. And again, you have to walk or crawl before you fly. So if you do those single leg squats, I recommend practicing with a chair and a counterweight. So if you fall, you sit down and come up, or you can just balance over that chair and stand up, and you'll notice that it's a lot more pressure on the one leg. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, please reach out. And if you need some extra motivation, check out something new. For me, I really, really embraced the world of fitness when I found exercise that wasn't boring for me. Like, I don't know about you, but I hate just following a video. I love these virtual classes where the trainer and the instructor is talking back to me or can see me. And I love going to like live outdoor classes during this time. So there's always something that we can do. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thanks for your time. Have a beautiful afternoon, morning, or evening.